Right guys, welcome back to the horror video games. Today I'm talking about why having guns in horror games is better. So why am I talking about this today? Right, so recently I completed the preview version of Layers of Fear, which many people have been playing recently. I realise I'm a bit late to the party talking about this game, but anyway. This game, you're walking around a kind of haunted house and you're a painter and you have no weapons and you kind of have to experience things and run away from things. Now, it made me think that I'm growing a little bit tired of seeing these games in 2015 and 2014 of basically it's a running away simulator, it's a haunted house simulator, and it made me think that about having guns in horror games and why having guns in horror games is inherently better and more satisfying than games that don't have guns. So I'll start my point by saying that games with guns, be it horror or not, present the player with choices and options. This is my first simple point about having guns. Say for example you have an enemy in front of you, and the first option, the first type of game is just running away. So you see the monster, and your only option is to run away or perhaps run around the monster. This is your only choice. Now, in the next example, you walk down the corridor, monster appears, and you have, say, a dozen weapons at your disposal, or indeed just one weapon. Say you have a shotgun. Maybe the shotgun is only effective at close range, so this tells the player you have to get in close. This fundamentally changes the gameplay seen in horror games. So, once you've got, say, a dozen different weapons, and a dozen different choices of how to destroy this enemy in front of you, this is just more fun than just running away. And also it's more challenging as well. What weapons do you use? What's the weak points of the enemy? How are you going to destroy this enemy? From what point are you going to shoot this enemy? Where's your vantage point? All this kind of stuff, these mountains of choices and challenges that are presented with games with guns. And also the simple fact is that just confronting an enemy is scarier than just running away from it, so that's my next point. And also you have to think about the contrast between having ammo and then not having ammo. Okay, so I've got 5 bullets left, and now I have no bullets left. So this kind of changes the dynamics. So you were safe to start with, and now you're not safe. This is scarier than just not having guns to start with. So, in games like Outlast and Amnesia and Soma and Layers of Fear, this is kind of, the game is saying you have this kind of inherent powerlessness throughout the entire game, and you have no choice. Whereas games which like have weapons like in Doom 3, Dead Space 2, Resident Evil Remake, it's more of a transient powerlessness because you will have ammo and then you won't have ammo. So you go from these two different states in the game, these kind of emotional states that the player will go through, that you have ammo and then you don't, and then it's kind of the changing dynamic and emotional dynamic that changes throughout the game. Now, an interesting case study is Alien Isolation, which kind of crosses the boundaries between having weapons and not having weapons. Now, some people may have enjoyed this, but I actually found this quite frustrating and annoying, that the weapons were generally ineffective against the alien. Now, in the Alien films, I'm a big fan of the series, except Alien 4, which was terrible. We're actually led to believe that the flamethrower is actually quite useful against the aliens. So Alien Isolation presents an enemy which cannot be killed by flamethrowers, which is thematically inconsistent with the franchise. And also weaponry introduces a kind of sense of panic as well, this kind of resource management, the desperation, and also it promotes a different kind of dread. A different kind of emotional response. What am I going to do? I have no ammunition. How am I going to survive this? And these kind of different emotional responses, and also it introduces this element of bravery. So you've got 3 bullets left, but you've got to get through at least 10 different enemies. How are you going to manage this scenario? And also there's this element of confronting your fears. Now, if we think about dreams and nightmares, if you have a monster which is chasing you in your dreams, then you have, once again, 2 choices. Do you confront the enemy, or do you run away from the enemy? Now, often in dreams, that if you manage to confront your fears, then ultimately your fears will disappear. So this is very, very emotionally satisfying that this dynamic is played out in horror games. And finally, the point with having weapons in games is that, especially horror games, is that it introduces this concept of the hero and the coward. Now, which one would you rather be? Now, games which involve epic amounts of running away, it's basically saying that your character is a coward. And ultimately, if your character is involved in shooting enemies and destroying enemies and conquering enemies, this kind of suggests that your character is brave and a hero. And so the question you need to ask yourself as a player is what would you rather be? Would you rather be the hero or the coward in horror games? Would you rather be the selfless character who's trying to fight his way and save someone and fighting through endless enemies and then finally triumphs at the end? Or would you rather survive a situation which involves constant running away and being a coward? So once again, I really appreciate all your comments, I really appreciate your feedback and these kind of interesting discussions that we're getting involved in now, and it really makes a difference to me. It helps motivate me and it makes me feel really good about making these videos and keeps me going. So please feel free to give me your opinions on whether you think having guns in horror games is good or not. So that's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to comment, rate and subscribe. You can tweet me at TheHorrorVG. I hope to see you on the next video. See you next time.